Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Property Management 101. Today's video we'll be discussing best practices on how to handle an upset tenant. If you've not already done so, please watch my disclosure video as well as my why I do this video. And if you found this video helpful and learned something new, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. This video will apply to everyone in the property management industry, regardless of the asset type or demographic type. From time to time, regardless what your day-to-day is in the property management industry, I believe everyone eventually will work with a resident. So it's really important that you have some good fundamentals as far as how to handle an upset resident. Number one best practice to keep in mind when dealing with an upset tenant, let them vent. If a resident comes to you upset, allow them to tell you their side of the story first, even if it's a situation you're well aware of. I know it might be hard, but I would really encourage you to hold back any feedback or any response until they've really outlined all of their points and frustration. If you do this, they're going to be much more likely to listen to you when you are ready to respond to what they're stating. One pro tip I have for you with this topic is this. If usually a resident, when they come in, if they're upset, their volume is typically going to be higher than a normal conversation would be. So what I would strongly recommend doing is if they're here and you're here from a volume perspective, don't take your volume level above their volume. Sometimes we feel that we need to be louder in order to respond. The problem in doing that is that they will only get louder when they respond back to you. And that's going to add to their frustration and the emotion to the situation. Try to keep a very level head and allow them to get their frustrations out and what's going on. But when you do respond, don't take it to that upper end from a volume standpoint. Number two best practice to keep in mind when dealing with upset tenant, look for a middle ground. Now this is the toughest one that I've seen when I've worked with operators in the property industry to do. If a resident is clearly wrong and or has violated their lease, it is so hard, I think, for sometimes employees to sit back and say, well, I don't want to bend it all. I don't want to change this at all. I'm right, they're wrong, and that's the end of it. And I think sometimes that's the wrong approach. There may be opportunities to find a middle ground that they're satisfied with and you're willing to live with. It's going to be more helpful for the property's long-term success for you to get back and focus on what is in line and what needs to be done to get this property with the strategy it needs, rather than spending time with this resident that's clearly upset and not happy. So I'm not saying to dismiss what they're needing or dismiss what's important to them, but just keep in mind the big picture of the property. If there's anything you can do to try to find a middle ground with the resident, then it's something that I would consider and then ensure that it saves time for you, the staff, and the resident, as well as some frustrations. And the last but not least item to keep in mind when you're dealing with upset tenant, be consistent. If you are going to make a special circumstance, make sure it's something you're willing to live with if another resident came to you with the same situation. So if it's not something you're willing to live with at masses or maybe to buy 3 or 4 residents, then it's something I would question, should you be offering in the... So that is something to consider with each individual situation. Now, I always think it's important to follow fair housing laws and follow the lease and any local tenant landlord laws. But if there's opportunities outside of that that you can offer to work with this resident, that's something to keep in mind as long as it's something you're willing to consistently offer for any other resident in a similar situation. I hope you found this video helpful and learned something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. And if you have any questions about this video or any of my videos, feel free to comment below and I'll be happy to address them. Happy leasing.